Hi, and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to be doing the Miriam Joy Wax Technique jewelry line, and we're going to do a bunch of different videos for you on different pieces because they all kind of have little techniques. But before we get started on the piece we're working on today, we want to go over some of the tools and how we get the gourd piece ready. So that's kind of important. This that I'm working on is a 2-inch gourd round, and we get these by using our circle drill, and these just simply hook into your drill. You just set them right in there like that. Now you can position this bit so that it's not in the way, but it's harder to control. So if you're using the bit and you want to leave the drill in the middle, that's fine. And then what I do is I simply fill it in with quick wood and sand it out. Now the slower you take these, the smoother your pieces are going to be. So my suggestion is just take it nice and slow. If you have a drill press, it's easier. You just hook this into the drill press and take the drill press down nice and easy. You want thicker pieces. You don't want something that's really, really thin. It needs to be wide enough that we can put a strip of leather or whatever you want to put on the sides. There's all kinds of different ways to finish it, and we'll talk about that when we get to that part. But I do them with thicker pieces, and then I take them and I have a let's see, what is this called? A sanding tabletop sander. It's a belt sander, and I just smooth my edges down, and I've done them by hand too. It's not a big deal. You can do the sizes by hand if you want to make sure that they're nice and perfectly round. And then I take the bottom of it and I just sand it like this. Now because they're thicker, I get that nice smooth finish. You can sand the top if you have little blemishes or anything like that. And if you have a little hole or two, don't forget you can fill that in with your quick wood as well. It doesn't take that much. But other than that, these do not have to be sanded. You do not want them sealed. You want them nice and natural. You don't want anything underneath. We're not going to be working with any dyes or anything other than just our Crayola crayon for our color. We will be adding some of that. Now to make this easier for you, we do have the different sizes available on the website. This is a 2.5-inch round, and what I work most commonly with is the 2-inch. I have a 1.5, which is a nice little necklace size, or also the 1.25, and this makes great earrings. I don't want my earrings so small that I can't work with them, so we'll be getting some earring kits for you as well. All of these are available on our website as pieces and as kits, and we're going to excuse me, lost my train of thought there. We just want to make sure that we have these available so that you don't have to do the work. You can just buy them and you're ready to go. And a lot of our kits are going to have everything you need in it to do that specific one. So whatever kit you want, you just order it online and it'll have most of your products available in it. So we've talked about how our little pieces are. Oh, I know where my train of thought went. I would not recommend doing a bigger piece than the 2.5. You can try it, but most of them, like I said, I like the 2-inch. The reason is there's only so much room you can control the wax while it's warm. So that's the reason I don't get into the bigger pieces of gourds, and you want to kind of watch them. You don't want them too lumpy or bumpy because remember your wax is going to melt into the lower spots. So we want to try and have it as flat as possible. We know that gourds aren't flat, but we try and do our best. Okay, we're going to be using, of course, the Miriam Joy melting pot that has the well in it, so we can put our crayons in here. This technique does take a little bit more crayon than what you're used to working with. And I'm not going to lie to you about this, but the more pots you have, the better the experience is going to be for you, one for each color. Otherwise, you're trying to jump around too much, trying to clean out a melting pot, getting to the next color. So if you have 3 melting pots, you might kind of think about doing a project that has just 3 colors. You can clean it out. It's just going to take you longer, that's all. And you just, the more you have, the more you're going to really love that. And this is addicting. I'm going to warn you up front, it is very addicting. Once you start this, your ideas are just going to go crazy and you're going to start thinking of all these things that you can do. I do use the Miriam Joy tools. When I'm applying the wax on with larger amounts, I use my number 2 tool, which is the biggest of the tools, and then I go into the smaller tools to move things around. So know that they are going to be move around on you a little bit. So you want the smaller tips of the Miriam Joy tools. We use the stipple brushes, and I don't even try to clean these out because they're so reasonably cost, and I try to keep these all reasonable for you. I have one for each color, and this is when we're putting large amounts of color in them, and I'll be showing you different pieces where we're using this tool to make our process go a whole lot faster, and it's kind of to lay the wax kind of more evenly on there. I've also introduced the eyedroppers. Now, we carry these as well. Again, I do the same thing. I try to have one for each color and at a reasonable cost so that you don't have to worry about trying to clean them out or anything. And they have to be glass. You do not want to try and put plastic into your melting pot or your hot wax. You're going to melt it. So we want to make sure that we're using glass eyedroppers. And this again is just it's a easier way to get the wax spread out along a longer cross of area. So that's the reason that we have introduced the eyedroppers. I am also going to use the texture brush and inserts in some of the different things I make, and the ones I do that you're really going to like. They're going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you have your texture brush and insert ready for some of these as well. I'm sticking with a lot of these, a 24 box of crayons. Doing these videos or the wax technique is great because you can take out your crayons that you don't use a lot of and just throw them all together and make some wonderful fun stuff. But I'm going to stick with a 24 because that's the most economical, as we know. Don't forget your darker colors. Use your white to lighten them up, especially your blues and your purples so they don't look black, and then you get these real fun colors. Because in the 24 box, we don't really have a lighter purple. And look at the tip, because like this purple here is almost black. I'm also going to be using a lot of the metallic colors, which are a lot of fun. They're really, really just great. They have that sparkle to them, almost like there's glitter in them. And here's a silver that's warmed up just to kind of show you the kind of stuff that you're going to get and how fun they are. I'm not using as much of the glitter because when you heat them up, they kind of get a little bit, I don't know how to explain it, harder. But try them and see if you like it. If not, go back to your metallic colors. I don't recommend doing a whole bunch of metallic colors in one piece because your crayons give it the brightness that you want, and when you're using metallics you kind of lose that brightness and that color. So I do 1 or 2 metallic colors with a piece at the most and stick with my basic crayons. We have all kinds of fun things we can add into our wax as we're working. There's all kinds of glitters and items. I have been using the micro beads. And then one of my favorites is the tinsel glitter. And you have thicker glitter and finer glitter. And there's just all kinds of really neat kinds that is out there. There's also, this is like a leafing. I think they call this like a vintage leafing. But there's just all kinds of things. Think about adding to them. All kinds of scrapbook items that you can use in this, and we'll show you how to melt it into your wax once we get going. One of my favorite things are these little guys though, because when I'm doing this I find I can control it better if I can get my finger in there and I just want to put it on just a little bit and spread it across just with my fingers. And I like these little containers better, and we are going to sell these on our website with the little glitters in them, so you can get exactly what you want and just sprinkle it and get in and out of it with your finger. And that again is the Tencel glitter. So they have all kinds of neat things in them. This one I have some of the Tencel glitter in, and I have some of the micro beads in. But just anywhere where you think that you may need something, we can add a little bit of sparkle. This one has just the real fine silver in it. And then I want to show you on this one we have a little bit of the bigger pieces in it. Just a tad, just enough to set that piece off. But I really think that the glitter really makes or breaks your piece. I think it's a lot of fun. And let's get started, because this is going to be so much fun. I got so excited about getting ready to play, I forgot a couple of the key things that we're using here. So I'm going to go back and just cover a couple other little things. You might have seen these sitting on the table. These are my rubber gloves, and they're also, they call them garden gloves, but you want the ones with the rubber on them. This is kind of a tip I'm going to give you. These make holding onto your gourd so much easier. So if you have a gourd or you're working with a gourd, especially when I'm working with my drill press and I need to hold on to one, I can hold on to it nice and easy, and it doesn't slip around as much. I also use it when I'm working with my pieces to hold on to that are smaller, because they're just that much more secure, or especially when I am sanding on my sander, I can hold on to it with a better grip. So any of the gloves with the rubber work really, really well. No matter what type of gourd work you're doing, those are fun to use. I also have my table covered in a piece of paper. You can get the bigger pieces of paper at your newspaper, the leftover rolls, or at a butcher a lot of times we'll have the bigger strips of paper. Because we're moving so fast and working so fast, we'll get a lot of wax spread out, so we don't want to do have splatters all over our work area. I also have a black tray, especially right under where I have my heat gun, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Because you're going to have splatters coming off and going different areas, you want to kind of contain that bigger splatter area there. I also have a hook, kind of a shepherd's hook or a plant hanger, and this one happens to hook right onto my table. I found this one at a craft store, but also your garden supplies. And if you happen to be one of the ones that has a rotary tools that has the hanger to hang off of, that would work really, really nicely as well. And I know that there are some vendors out there that do sell those. You might check like Bonnie Gibson's site or some of the others as well. I'm going to be using one of the most important tools today is our heat tool. They're also called embossing tools or heat guns. So if you have any of those three written on it, it's all good. We do now carry this style, and I really like this style because it comes in here at the middle and it's easy to hold. And when I first started doing this process, I would work with this hand and hold with this hand, and it's a little bit harder, so that's why I recommend the stand, but you can do it if you need to do that. So that is a little bit more of our tools that we're going to be using today. Oh, turn that right on. We know that it works. And now let's get playing and have some fun. The one we're going to be doing today is the basic jewelry wax piece. It's kind of the introduction, and that leads to all kinds of other more specialized, but this is how I started developing it. And everyone is going to be different. Everyone just has its own personality. So there's all kinds of fun things that we're going to do with this. Now in this basic kit today, we're going to include 24 crayons so you can make it any color you want, and we're going to throw in a random metallic color so you can play with the metallics as well to kind of know how those work for you. So I'm going to show you some different techniques and some different tools that I am using, and I'm also working on the 2-inch round today, the round gourd piece. We want to put our tool into our wax to warm it up, just like we do when we're working with any of our wax technique. And it doesn't take that long. I'm going to be using the number 2 tool, the small end, because I can move a wax around without it dripping that much, and just put that right into the wax, into the heater, and warm it up. So I'm going to start with my purple metallic color today, and I'm just kind of spreading the color around in different places. And you can see already how that metallic is different than the other colors. I'm going to make sure I do some up against the edge. When I am applying this on, I want to make sure that I do not go back over what I've already put on, and I'll kind of show you. See how that moves it and kind of makes it yucky because that's already drying. I've switched to a pink here, and we're going to go up against some of those colors, and we're just kind of getting this all on, and here and there, and you can do as many or as few colors as you want to do. And I'm going to use more colors in this one, just kind of showing you. And I'm stopping and wiping my tool off, and it's easier if you have a tool for each color, and then you can just keep going. But if you don't, just wipe them off. If you drip, just go with your drip. It's not a big deal. And we're just filling this all in. Make sure you cover up all of the gourd. You don't want to leave any undone. And I am going to switch. I go to, you can mix the blue, green, and the white to make a turquoise color. And I want to get some yellow in here, some dandelion as well. I really like my yellow. It just helps things pop. You guys probably already know that if you've taken any of my classes. And we're going to switch into some dandelion. But you can do any color you want to. You can mix the colors with the white. We're just going to get this on here and see how I applied it all. I'm going to fill in a couple of these little spots with the yellow. Okay, now we've completely covered our piece, and we are going to go over to our heat gun, and we're going to warm our wax up. And I put some little tie strips at the top of mine just so that I could know where to hang this. You can also just loop this over, it doesn't matter. So you can get about the right length, but that way I can let go of it and it's right where I want it. So I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to start warming it, and I'm going to move it around. I'm not going to keep it in the same spot because you want to keep it all about the same temperature. And another thing, I want to make sure that none of my wax is still kind of really warm so that it doesn't heat faster than the other wax does. So we're going to heat this up. And you can see as it starts to melt, it's getting a little bit bright and shiny. Now, this is kind of melted already, but there's different things that we can do with this. You can blow it on one side to another to kind of move it around and just do it just like that. That is one way of just leaving it as a basic melted just piece, kind of like that. Or we can play with our tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my zero tool in here and I'm going to warm this up, because if this is cold and I go onto my warm wax, it's going to not work as well. So we want to kind of keep this warm. So this is all wiggly. And we're going to come in here and we're just going to start to swirl this. See all this neat stuff that's starting to happen? And I'm going to stop and turn that off so you can kind of see how we played with that. So we changed the design real simple just by bringing a tool in and kind of swirling it. So don't overdo it. You don't want to mix your wax too much. When you mix your wax too much, you muddy it. So if you don't like what you have, simply heat it up again and take it off again. But we're going to set this one aside, but we're going to look at, see this metallic crayon, and it's got these colors, almost looks like glitter in that neat. So that's kind of the effect that the metallic colors give you. So we're going to go and we're going to do some other different applications now. And I'm going to be using the stipple brushes. And like I said, I do one for each color when I am working at home. And these have wax in them, so when you put them in, you kind of have to melt them a little bit. And I will kind of melt them on top of my landing on my melting pot and get them kind of loosened up and working, and then dip into my color. And this brings in bigger chunks of color. So what you're doing is just applying it in bigger pieces. And then I just simply put that in my container and go to my next brush color. And the same as with the tool, don't go back over a part that you've already put on, because you're just going to start messing it up and you want it smoother. Where this just gets it on, it's thinner than how we put it on with the other application. So it works better for different things. It's just kind of, you're going to kind of see what you like and what you want to do with it. Now let's put in some purple here. And another thing, if you don't want your brushes quite as thick, then rinse them or wipe them out and keep them as melted as possible when you're done with them. Now this is a metallic color again, so you can kind of see how that metallic color is there. Now what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to heat it up, and we're going to add a little bit of glitter to this one so you can see how the glitters work. Now I don't get it to the point where it's really, really melted on this part. I kind of get it to the point where it turns shiny because it's already sticky. And I'm going to use some different glitters, and I like the glitters best if I apply them. And I'm going to put some purple glitter, and we're going to put some glitter in your kit for you so you can play with it. Put some purple glitter right on that metallic crayon, and then I'm also going to throw some tinsel glitter on the pink part so that you can see how much fun the tinsel glitter is as well. I'm going to get it just a little bit warmer again. Right when you can see that it's melty, just put that right on top. Okay. All right, now we're going to start playing with it again. And remember, you can angle it and shoot it one way if you have the edge, where you want to do it the other way. There's all kinds of things you can do with that. I'm going to take my tool again, and I'm going to mix this up a little bit. And I'm going to leave it just right there, because I like the way that looks. And like we talked about, you don't want to overdo it as well. And my edge is a little bit runny. If you want to move that around, it's kind of collecting on there, you can. Another thing that I have found works well, and I don't have one handy, is you can take a cotton ball on those edges and absorb some of that extra wax if you don't want that all right there building up. And the drier it gets, the duller it gets, but that's going to change again as soon as we put the varnish back on top. But I want to show you, we've already got two totally different looks here. So let's see how the tinsel glitter really comes up. I like the look of the tinsel glitter a lot. And then we also have the other glitter in there as well. Sometimes just a tad, depending on what you're doing, just really sets it off, and it does not take hardly any glitter at all. So let's do one more. And this one I'm going to use the eyedroppers with, and make some different colors here. And this one, I'm going to remove that color. And like I said, if you don't like what you did, heat them up, melt them, wipe it off. It is not a big deal. So I'm going to do the eyedroppers. Grab the eyedroppers, Miriam. Now remember, these are glass eyedroppers, and I am going to warm them up. I'm going to set them into the wax and warm them up. We want to make sure that they're nice and warm. And this is the style of eyedroppers. You'll see me use a couple of different kinds, but this is the best, and this is the kind that we now are carrying. So it is a nice eyedropper. And I am going to come in here, and I'm going to do some yellow. And see, you can do more of a line. And I'm hardly pushing. And when I pull my wax up, I don't hardly pull it up much past there. You don't want to pull it up a lot too far into it. I'm going to put some red over here. Now, a little bit different than how we did with the brush. This is a little bit thicker, so your wax is going to have more to melt with. And a lot of times I'll even use the different techniques together to combine them, the different ones that I'm using. In fact, I think I'm going to use the brush with the turquoise color here, and you're going to see that's thinner. Don't go back over it like I just did. That's the reason why. And putting a little bit of white or black in these is really neat too. We're going to be doing a bunch of these videos. They're going to get more specialized as we're going. Each one we're going to teach you something new and fun. So make sure you check them all out. So I just want to kind of see what this guy looks like here. Alright, so I'm all done with my wax. So I'm going to bring him over. We're going to melt him. be careful when you're heating this up. This gets really hot. You don't want to catch this on fire, so really use that with caution. I'm going to turn it a little bit. I'm just going to play with it till I get it where I want it. And I'm going to stop. I'm not going to overdo that. And like I said, every time you do these, they're going to be different. But look how great that looks. And this is just heating the crayon up. Remember, this is only Crayola crayon. It is brighter and it is thicker. So we want to make sure that we only use the Crayola crayon. We're going to get ready and we're going to start covering these up with our Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. Now, once they've cooled off, you have to cool them off before you can put it on. It does affect the Mod Podge that you're putting over them, the finish. So make sure that they've cooled all the way. So I'm not going to touch that guy yet. But I'm going to come over here and I'm going to remove all the wax off the sides before I start to put my coating on, so later we can go and put our acrylic paint over that area, and whatever we're gluing on to finish our sides will stay put. If you have your wax and your varnish over the top of that, it's not going to stay real well, so we want to make sure that we don't do that. So we'll clean these off. Let me touch this guy. He's almost dry. We're going to give him just another minute more, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting the Dimensional Magic on him. Now, because gourds aren't usually flat, they run off on the edges, we're going to put it on with a brush. Don't shake these because they do bubble, and you don't want the bubbles in here. And so I'm just going to put this on with a brush, just nice, thick. This is water-based, so you can rinse it out in your sink or wherever with your water after you're done. Make sure you get the edges nice and well. This is still wax. We've got to cover this really, really well. And I do suggest, if you live in a really hot area, that you do test it before you give one to somebody. Make sure it's not going to get too hot. We usually don't leave our jewelry sitting out directly in the sun. We're usually wearing it. But you want to make sure that you have that nice and sealed all the way around. But see how much shinier that is getting, and how bright. See, this guy's still dull compared to these guys that are nice and shiny. And I would do probably 5 coats because, like we said, we're putting them on with a brush. We're not just letting them sit there, so we want to kind of build that up. And you want to let them dry and get nice and hard in between each one. And on the final one, it's a minimum of 3 hours before you do anything else. This guy's just a tad warm, but I think he'll be okay. Go ahead, and that just really brightens him up. Okay, so we're going to let those guys dry. Go ahead and rinse out our brush, and then we're going to come back and we're going to finish these guys up. I'm going to show you the proper way to put the finish on this. I noticed just real quick when we were going back, the way I was showing you was leaving the brush strokes, and we don't want that. And we want to just go into a little bit more detail, the proper way to apply our Dimensional Magic. Dimensional Magic is made to be put on thick. So we want to put it on thicker than just a little bit of brushing on. And it's better to have too much than too little. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to start it on the outside. I'm going to put a layer, and then I'm going to put quite a bit in the middle. And actually, from what I found out, it is better to have too much than not enough. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to go along the outside edge. And I'm just going to lightly spread it out on top. And if it comes over the sides, just wipe that off. It's not a big deal. But what you'll notice is when I went to wipe, these ridges right here are going to disappear because it is thick enough for them to blend back together. And if it's not thick enough, you need to apply more of the Dimensional Magic, and that way it keeps us from getting the brush strokes. Now see, when I put them on more, you don't want to do that. You want to get it on and leave it. You don't want to overwork it. So less is actually better when it comes to putting or using the brush on it. Just wipe a couple times to get that all kind of spread out nice and even, and then you'll notice it start to kind of gel down, and that is how that you want to apply the Dimensional Magic. Just keep your sides clean, set that straight down, and let that continue to dry. Okay, now that we've finished decorating our jewelry piece and we have removed the wax off the sides with our hobby knife, and we put 5 coats of the Mod Podge on, the Dimensional Magic, and it is dry, we're going to come in with our black acrylic paint and just paint the sides and the back all nice and neat. And if you get any of the paint up here, just wipe it off because you've already got your sealer on, so that'll just wipe off. Now make sure if you've used your Dimensional Magic, it's been 3 hours and that it's nice and dry. We don't want that wet and your fingerprints in there. And we're going to talk some more about different things that you can use other than what I am using. In this, I'm going to use the basic black suede strip, and the reason I use black in the backgrounds is it's a fade color, so the design and the piece stands out and the sides don't distract from your design or the front part. So that is a reason that I use the black. Now there's lots of other colors that you could use and decide that you would rather do instead of the black, like on the red flower. Paint the sides red and then put your red leather piece over that to bring out the red and the flower. That's fine. You have all kinds of things. This is some little silk pieces that I have found. You could put those around there. I've used some. I've turned them into a braid. You could put a braided piece around there to bring that out. It's all kinds of different stuff. I found some little tiny Hawaiian beads that I thought if you had the right piece, those would look fun. But you've got all kinds of thread and yarn and just different accents that you can use. Don't get stuck on just what I'm showing you today. I always tell you to think outside the box. Well, think outside the Gourd piece here. I have some silver wire that you could use, as well as some stained glass siding that's sticky that you could put on the sides. So there's all kinds of things that you could do with it. One of my favorites for this piece was a braided suede piece around that, and how neat that makes that look. But like I said, we're going to stick with the black basic for now because it helps the pattern stand out in the background. And if you've done the beading video, there is one thing that we're going to do different, and we're going to move the suede piece towards the front so it's flush with the front of our piece. So we have painted in black. It's nice and dry. I'm going to put a tad of tacky glue on to start it. And on this one, I'm going to decide where my top of my Gourd piece is going to be, and I'm going to start and finish there. And that is so I can also get my eye screw in between those two pieces. Now I'm going to set it down flush. I'm going to use an awl, and I'm going to stick that awl right in the middle of that piece on the end. And when the awl, you want it to go about 1/4 of an inch down, because the sequin pins that we're going to be using are 1/2 inch. Throw a couple of those out there. And if you do it right, you should only need 2 of these. And some Gourd pieces are tougher than others, and some are softer. And this guy is gonna be a booger. He is nice and hard. So let's see, and I leave my finger right there, so hopefully I can kind of have an idea where that hole is, and I can sink my nail into that hole without it being too hard. And I'm going to try moving him just a tad here, because he is not playing with me today. There we go. And I have tried all different ways to do this with the hammer and all kinds of things, and the awl is the easiest way. You only want to put it halfway down so your sequin can push in halfway so it holds nice and secure. You don't want to push it all the way, otherwise your sequin won't have anything to push into. Now, instead of hammering or anything, I found it was just easier to push the pin straight in, and if it bends, take your pliers and pull it out. You don't want to go any further, and you want to make sure that this pin is not going towards the front. You don't want it to go through your design. You'd rather it go down or towards the back. If it comes through anywhere, you'd rather it came through the back. We're going to try one more time. Nice and slow, just pushing that straight in. This is a hard gourd. And it's kind of nice so you know that it happens to me as well. So we're going to leave this one in here. Try one more time with my awl. Push that straight down. Don't let it go to the side. The thimble is important. It's a non-slip thimble so that you cannot slip around, and that really helps out. Okay, so we finally got that guy in there. And I like to leave that in there because if I have problems, you're going to have problems once in a while. And we don't want to have this too messy. We don't want it on top of our leather because we're not covering up our leather. Our leather is our final piece. We'll bring that all the way around. And when I lay my tacky glue down, I always have it on the side instead of straight up and down, so I don't have to shake it and get that air bubble out before I grab it. So we're just going to put this on, and we wanted it flush with the front, so I'm just kind of moving that around. And we're going to bump up right up next to this. We're going to put, you're not going over the top of it, but you're going right next to where we did the first one. And we're going to see if this guy will go in a little bit easier. Push him in nice and slow, straight up and down. This one's been a booger. And if he bends, we know we're going to pull. I'm going to grab my pliers here. And so we're going to pull this guy out. And that's why we put extra pins in your kit. And usually I do not have this hard of a time. This is just a tougher piece, just like you have soft gourds and hard gourds. It's the same thing with this. I'm going to try to put the hole in again a little bit further down. But like I said, it's a good thing to do these on these videos, because then you know when you do it, you're not thinking how easy it was. And usually it goes in much easier. I usually do not have this hard of a time at all. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim this off. You still want the two pieces kind of meeting right there. Okay. and remove any of this glue from the front. You do not want any of this showing. Kind of make sure it's on the edge. And what this does is just frames your piece that much nicer. Now, where these two pieces touched, I'm actually going to come in between those two, and I'll punch another hole. And actually, I'm going to punch this one because it's thicker right behind it. But if it's not thicker, it's thinner, just put it right down the middle of your piece right there. Because when you go to turn it, your pieces are broken right there, so you're not turning them as much. So we're going to put our awl in there again. And we're going to twist on our screw eye. This is the smallest ones you can find. I think this is like a 7/16. It'll be in your kits. So now we have that on. And I drop my necklace. And we're going to put our jump ring on. And I'm going to open the jump ring up. I'm going to put it through the necklace. Decide which way your clasp goes on your necklace so that you have that the right direction. And then put your pendant part on. And then you're going to squeeze it shut. And you want no space between that. Now, it's a bigger... You don't have to worry about exactly, but you never want, when you're working with jump rings, you never want them coming off, so you want to make sure they're nice and tight. So we want those meeting. And you can also squish them on there too, so that you know that they're nice and tight and right where they meet. And we have our necklace. Now, if you notice, the screw eye is facing this direction so that your jump ring is facing this direction. Now, if you have any glue or stuff on the back like this, go back over and paint that up, touch that up with your black acrylic paint. And you can also add part of a back on there. You can cut out the size of your circle and put a piece of material or leather on there, just so that it's a little bit smoother on your necklace. If your skin, if you happen to be wearing it above your clothing. And if you like the piece with the beading on, we also have the beading technique, and that is on the Miriam Joy website, and that just really makes all of your stuff stand out. And there is a great video on how to do that step by step. And so we're just adding all kinds of dimension to your jewelry, and it's amazing just what Crayola crayon can do and how fantastic it looks. Nobody's going to believe that these are actually crayons. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. Please know that you can play the video into YouTube again and again. You're not limited to one time, and that there also are kits for each one of these. Hopefully, if you don't see anything up online, email me at art@miriamjoy.com, or if you have any questions. And for any of the other projects, just visit my website at miriamjoy.com. Thank you. God bless and have fun.